There will be a banana in there soon.
Check. Everyone, hello, I'm Grim. I have Ender and VMXEO in here with me as well. We're doing a bit of an audio check. Can everyone hear me? Hello. Let us know in chat if we got good comms on us.
And if you hear a crunching noise, that would be Ender stuffing his face with a taco.
Exactly.
If I have a crunchy banana, we're in trouble.
All right. Ostentatious says perfecto. All right. We'll be back in just a minute, everyone. We'll get the show started. All right. Hello. I think we're live here. Hopefully I didn't mess anything up. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another STARJUMP Station. Last we saw you 2 weeks ago, but we kept our promise and we're on our new cadence now, episode release kind of every other week. With me is Ender and VMXEO, as always. How you doing?
Bonduba.
Ender, how was dinner? And how was your stream? What did you have for dinner?
Just a sandwich.
Okay.
Just a chicken sandwich.
Okay. I'm glad you paused your stream for that.
A banana. I needed to eat. It could have been bad. I could have come on here hangry.
Yeah.
Just ready to eat. So.
Well, we are back. We, we said, what was it? Episode or like 2 weeks ago and then maybe 3 weeks ago we talked about our new release schedule. I wanted to bring that up to everyone again. We're our aim now for this year especially is to get STARJUMP content out regularly. We kind of fell off last year for a few reasons. Finishing up Fleet Viewer kind of I think wore us out and stuff. So we're kind of moving into a time period though where we're trying to get on some regular schedules, or at least the best we can. STARJUMP Station will be in every other Sunday sort of thing. Sometimes we may have to delay it a day or two, but we'll make sure we give you heads up on that. But every other Sunday, our other show, Fleet Builders, which is on Ender's channel, that's going to be, it's changing now, Ender, right? It's once every couple weeks.
Yeah, it'll probably be a cadence of once a month.
Right. Okay. And but to fill in the gaps, we're still going to be doing regular streaming play. I am bringing back the Skunkworks show because I had a lot of people DM me. I probably get about 3 or 4 DMs a week, even to this day, about keeping that going. And I think it's just because there's not much of that goes on, that type of content. So I have went through on our Discord, the Skunkworks channel, kind of started writing down ideas. I have an episode idea for this week, so we'll do that. Can't promise it'll be the most polished thing in the world, but we are going to get back to Skunkworks. I imagine that will be like a once every 2 weeks thing, or maybe, I might switch it up, to Sundays that Ender is not doing Fleet Builders. Then maybe it's Skunkworks. Kind of figure out where to slot that in. But I've got the first 3 or 4 episodes already lined up for what I want to do for Skunkworks. So we're getting back to that. If you enjoyed that, stay tuned. We also, I've always wanted to do a show that was pre-recorded on the YouTube, that was like a ship deep dive show, and I've kind of toyed with it a little bit in the past without moving forward on it. And there's tons of shows like that, especially older Star Citizen content creators from like back in the day. I can think of a few of them offhand. They used to do these episodes where they would literally deep dive one ship or 2 ships and kind of compare them. A lot of times diving into their stats, physical attributes, roles, all that. So I've started playing around with that concept, and I've built an episode, kind of the first episode of a new show called Shipyard. And I'm hoping to have that complete by next weekend. And then we'll get that out there. And if it feels good, feels right, everyone enjoys it, then we might push forward on something more regular and get other StarJump people involved. For now, it was just kind of my little pet project I did in the background. But hopefully what all this says to you is that we have a lot of content coming, we also are, like I said before, we're doing updates to Fleet Viewer pretty soon. There's definitely, we got to be ahead of whatever new ships are announced. We're going to be coming up on Invictus very soon and stuff like that. So there'll be additions to Fleet Viewer, and we'll sneak in updates with those, the times when those ships come in. I'm sure we'll put in a few updates. So we will not have a Fleet Builders next weekend, correct, Ender?
Correct.
Okay, so we won't have a Fleet Builders next weekend. However, if you can't get enough of one of the 3 of these hosts, I will be on Soul Citizens next Sunday. They're having a show called Making Modularity they wanted me to be on. And then in March 19th, I'll be on their show because they're doing an episode on the Kraken, and I consider myself a Kraken expert. So not Ask Kraken expert, but just a Kraken expert. What else do we have for the intro? Am I missing anything? Do we have any charity stuff to discuss? Anything over at over in your neck of the woods, VM? I'm guessing silence means no.
So quiet.
Oh,
I was gonna let him answer. We are prepping, ramping up for April for St. Jude Play Live.
Yep.
Starting in April. We're currently doing St. Jude, just a normal fundraiser. It's kind of our year-round fundraiser of choice. And we're doing.
By the way, Blood Tide is asking, what is a Fleet Builders?
That's actually what I'm currently grabbing.
Okay.
I'm grabbing the link to it and just sending them the link to one of the episodes. There's 3.
Yeah, Blood Tide, it's a show. You should check it out.
On there. Where we theory craft.
Yeah. It's usually live stream on Twitch. We do put it on YouTube as well as a VOD. It also plays live on YouTube now as well, or at least trying that out, experimenting. But it's essentially a show where me and Ender come up with fleets to solve a particular problem. That problem has numerous parameters involved with it, crew limitations, tasking, stuff like that. And we have to build fleets around that. Sometimes we build the same fleet, just our own, visions of that. And then sometimes we build opposing sides of a fleet. So our last episode was on pirates and transport, transport fleets. So Ender built a transport fleet. I built a pirate fleet, and we just kind of see how they net out and try to get an idea of who would come out on top. Not that it's always a competition or anything, but just sort of see, how The ship makeups counteract each other and stuff. There are other shows out there that do some stuff similar, but I think one of the things that Fleet Builders does that's really unique is that we put a lot of parameters on things. There's a lot of limitations, like I said, on crew count and all that cool stuff. So I think we're still sort of figuring out exactly how we want to format the show. We've tried a few things. And there's been episodes where, like, I went crazy with formatting, Ender didn't, or Ender went crazy with information, and mine was kind of lean. So I think we're trying to figure out what the sweet spot is for, you know, how to show these fleets and how to, it's something actually I think we want to do for Fleet Viewer at some point is put additional information on all the ships. So, for example, it will display like their crew count or cargo capacity. That's something we want to eventually do. And a lot of that stuff will play into Fleet Builders and how we display that information. So, all right. So, last week or last episode, not last week, this would have been 2 weeks ago, we did talk a little bit about the MSR coming up from JRDF VM. Any updates on that to share at this point? Are we still kind of in the hopper, ready to, getting close?
I wish I had an update.
Yeah.
I don't yet. I'm eagerly awaiting word.
Yes.
That way. I'm eagerly awaiting word because there's so much I want to show you that's cool about this kit.
Well, either way, it's got to be
even
close.
Cooler.
Yeah.
Even cooler than Dargenator's product photos here. So
awesome. Yeah, it's definitely going to be an easy buy for me and something that if any of you are big fans of what JRDF does, obviously keep a close eye on their Twitter, Twitch, website, all that for updates on this stuff. I think last time, wasn't it for the Carrick, didn't they like live stream when they started taking the orders? I think it was like a live stream thing. I know because I was watching it at the time, but who knows what they'll do. But either way, keep an eye out on all their channels and stuff. I have a feeling the MSR will be coming soon to be able to purchase or pre-order or whatever. So
MSR and maybe some more surprises.
Ooh, I like it. All right, let's kind of jump into tonight's. Oops, I switched over. Let me turn off the open unless people want to see that again. So tonight we're
There's always at least one.
Always at least one. There's so we kind of just an open topic night. A lot of times with STARJUMP Station, we try to do a specific topic or set of topics that we discuss. They're all show notes. We have show notes for them and whatnot. Tonight we're free forming it. We just wanted to hang out with everybody. Be able to talk with our community, talk about a few topics, give our opinions on them, and all that good stuff. Oh, and sorry, before we go, I did have one other thing. So I did talk last episode about the poster giveaway, and I said we were going to draw 3 names per episode. So I started getting to thinking about it, realizing that we are on YouTube and Twitch, and being able to do giveaways for both venues is kind of tricky. So I'm going to do it a different way. Now there's a couple changes. One, if you want to enter to win a poster, very simple. All you have to do is either be a follower on Twitch or subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also do both and get your name in twice. All you have to do is that. And for YouTube, I'm specifically going to be pulling followers from the last, the most active followers. So if you've been active on the YouTube channel within the last 60 days, your name is entered. But what I'm going to do is, this week we won't have a poster giveaway, but we'll take people can follow, you can subscribe on YouTube, all that good stuff. And then next episode I will have already pulled 10 winners. We're going to do 10 winners per episode, which is kind of cool. It'll be just a random drawing, 5 from Twitch, 5 from YouTube. And then we'll announce all 5 winners on the show. Here's the other cool change to that, though. The poster is no longer this, which I showed off last time, the small cardstock poster. I've decided I am going to keep those for some STARJUMP stuff coming up. You're actually going to be getting that same poster, but a big format version, like a full poster size. Like I think it's 47 inches.
I don't have it near me.
By 20 inches. Yeah.
Where did I put it? Where did I put mine? It must be in the garage waiting for our stuff. I have one.
Yeah.
It's,
Ender
it's
has one.
big. It's nice.
So, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to be giving away 10 of those per episode, starting the winner. The first 10 winners will be announced next Star Jump Station. So that's how we're going to do it. So that gives everyone 2 weeks to kind of get in. All you have to do is be, like I said, either a follower on Twitch or subscribed in YouTube. And I'm always going to be pulling from the last 60 days of active users. So, for example, on YouTube, even though we have, whatever thousands of subscribers, it's only the past 2 months of active people in the chat or active viewers of that particular Star Jump Station. So again, all you really have to do is follow, subscribe, and watch these shows, and you're automatically entered. Like I said, we're giving away 10 per episode, at least here for the start. Maybe we'll do 10 and 10 and then whittle that down to 5 or whatever. But either way, I want to kind of come out swinging, get a lot of these posters out to people's hands. That way, if anyone does any streaming on their own or whatever, maybe we'll see some of them in the background. It'd be really cool. And they also will be shipping out direct from our merch store, which is kind of cool. We don't sell them, because we can't sell them. They have CIG stuff on them. They are just for giveaways, but like I said, really easy to get in these giveaways and become a winner because we have tons of these we're going to get through. That's it, though. I think that's all the content stuff I have for the Windows. Usually I have a bunch of stuff. Oh, you know what? Actually, no, that's not it. I do have one more thing, just like Steve Jobs would say. I wanted to explain this. Ender can probably help me out a little bit here. Those of you in our communities may have seen that me and Ender switched from StarJump logos to our individual logos. This has actually been long in the making. And the reason is, and I didn't want anyone to think that like either one of us was not in StarJump or anything silly like that. We specifically wanted to self-brand because people were getting us confused all the time. Even people in our own communities calling me Ender, calling him Grim, getting us confused on who they're talking to, or God forbid, me and Ender came in on the same conversation without announcing it. People, because our names were the same color, our icons were the same, people could just not. So we're doing separate icons. You'll probably see these icons spread out into other things as well, but I did just want to touch. That is why we did it. Neither one of us parted ways or anything like that. It wasn't anything like that. You'll see the logos are actually using the same font, for example. So it wasn't that much of a stretch. We just need to individually brand a little bit. So that's what that's for. Wanted to touch on that real quick before we get into things. All right, so let's start talking about things. I think I think we all have like some things we wouldn't mind bringing up and chit-chatting about this episode, but Execute's in chat. Hello, Execute. Hope you're all well. And hello to everyone in chat. Glad you could all join us and hang out with us. There may be a slight delay on the YouTube side of things with the stream. Apologies with that. We're still kind of working out some of the back end tech with Restream. But anyways, glad you're all here. Glad you're all hanging out with us. I think we all have stuff we want to discuss, but I wanted to kind of lead right into it with what's been coined Bed Logout Fiasco 2023, which is quickly becoming the Star Citizen controversy of the year. We've talked a little bit about it, I think, on Ender's stream. It's been talked about pretty much on every stream that I've seen lately. Every content creator's touched on it. Yeah, sorry about that on YouTube. I don't totally know what the delay is all about. But anyway, wanted to get everyone, VM's and Ender's opinion of it, or if you have an opinion on it. I definitely have an opinion on it. I also point out that Execute did Salty Mike did a great React video to this whole thing. I just watched it yesterday or today. Great video. Go check that out. Salty's viewpoint on the matter is exactly my viewpoint, but he had a good rationale for seeing both sides of the issue. But anyways, Ender, I'm just going to ask you, because I know you've talked about it in your stream a little bit. What's your thoughts on this? Can you give us a little bit of a summary of what happened? Short and sweet.
Well, I'll give you my understanding of what happened. Because I only know what I've been told.
Yeah.
Essentially, It breaks down to Carrick was running. Pirates overwhelmed the Carrick, took it over, got on board, killed the pilot, and then the pilot respawned in the med bed, as was their,
Prerogative, yeah.
Prerogative, and continued to get killed and respawn. The pirates gave an opportunity to log out of that bed and spawn elsewhere. The opportunity was not taken.
Which is kind of a funny choice of words, given the opportunity.
Well, I mean,
without, I guess, were they in-game chatting them? Do we know if they were voice communicating with them?
Here's where the muddy waters come in. They were attempting to contact.
Okay.
But unfortunately, there was never contact made.
Okay.
And I don't know if that is because of a language barrier or just the person didn't have the chat up. Either way, both were in the wrong on this, in my opinion. The fact of the matter is the pirates have a right to pirate. Okay.
Yep.
And to give the excuse of, well, I wasn't looking at the chat is a bad excuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they were typing in the chat, which they had to have been, right? Who knows? They also didn't go into enough attempts to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it just all around this was handled poorly by both sides. The person being pirated should have stopped their stuff. The person that was pirating should have continued trying to get contact.
Yeah. But ultimately, I think the fact that this happened is great. I think it's the best thing ever for this to have happened. I don't give two cares about either the pirates or the person being pirated. They're merely switches in a test chamber at this point, and they both got switched to the on position, apparently.
Yeah.
This ultimately comes down to, CIG and them figuring out how to solve this problem through game mechanics or consumables, and I've heard a lot of great ideas, everything from, well, the med bed should contain consumables where you run out of respawns and stuff. I look at this as yet another problem that will be solved when more gameplay stuff is in the game. For example, the biggest one being resource management. You're going to be able to shut that bed down via power relay, and then this will not be an issue. You know what I mean?
And I don't see them not doing the whole consumables thing. It makes no sense for MedBed to have unlimited respawns. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I felt the same way about this a little bit when medical gameplay came online. When it did, I remember thinking, and you heard me say this, I was like, is the game quite ready for this? And there's a lot of situations like that where certain systems come online that are obviously going to play out in a bad way, like this one did. And then, CIG is going to be behind on fixing it. I think where a lot of controversy also popped up with this, obviously, is CIG's response to it. Their response was to send a warning to the pirates, or a particular person in the pirate org. I don't know who it was. I'm not sure. But regardless, they sent a warning saying, this was griefing, and continuance of this will lead to further, actions on the account. And on that side of things, I actually do agree. I watched the video that Salty Mike was reacting to, and I actually agree with the pirate. I think he's in Mongrel Squad. I agreed with him in that you're setting a dangerous precedent by labeling that griefing.
They did, and it should have never been labeled griefing. Somebody, I think it might have been UV, said that decision, that thought was probably made by some low-level person.
Customer support.
And doesn't represent the group. And they didn't have all the information. I would put my year's salary on the decision was made not with the entirety of the information in there, but only the half from the person who felt they were being grieved. I love that.
As these things often happen.
Yeah.
Everyone, no one's perfect.
I think that's not on anyone, right? Jack O'Neill, you mentioned that they don't have to change the game, just better mods. That's not true. They do need to change the game because the game needs to moderate itself in situations like this. Mods should get involved in much deeper situations because, in all honesty, this was a situation where both people were wrong, and if a mod gets in on both two wrongs making a right, and they decide which one's right, it's wrong.
Right.
Well, the mods don't need to get involved in that. The game should fix it.
Well, essentially, going back to what I said a minute ago, we talk about Star Citizen. There's two ways to talk about Star Citizen, and it directly relates to this particular incident. And we've had a few discussions in our Discord just this past week that I wouldn't say got heated, but got a little tense, specifically over this one issue. And it's I guess the way to frame it would be, should you judge the game for what it is now or what it's supposed to be in the future, right? And I think that's an important question to ask in regards to Star Citizen because, how you judge a game may, determine, if you pledge for it, if you buy into it, or if you are only going to do your 45 pledge and not pledge into it anymore, and you're just playing it for the moment, whatever. I think that does have some real consequences in terms of how we judge a game and how it's going to get funded. Because again, this is a community funded project. I was just watching a video today. I believe it was Space Tomato, our good friend Space Tomato, and he had, I think he had Salty Mike's and Burke on, and Burke's, I think Burke said, that he judges the game based off now, like the experience now. And it just reminded me of this conversation and this whole incident with the bed logout and our conversations in Discord related to the Pioneer and other stuff this week. And it got me to thinking, how should we be judging this game? Is it for what it is now or what it's supposed to be in the future? And I'll jump in on that one first. I truly can only judge this game for what it will be in the future. And that's how I have to look at it, because the reason is if I was judging this game based off now, I wouldn't have bought into it at all.
No.
Because I wouldn't have pledged anything for it because it's not a game yet.
I wouldn't have put any,
it's
I would have let you, I would have let you obtain that arrow. Yeah. And I never would have bought anything else.
Yeah,
for sure.
100%. Yeah, it's not to a place where, and again, this is subjective. I don't think there's a right or wrong, just so everyone knows. I'm just saying that we each have to take our own path on this. And for me specifically, I actually did look at the game for what it is since 2012. You know what I mean? Yep. That's why I didn't buy into it for a long time. And I've said in previous chats we've had that I've only pledged when they do milestones that I think are advancement. But at the same time, those milestones that they're advancing that then make me go, okay, they're making some advancements here and I'm going to pledge more money into this project. They're still very much, for me, subjective, but for me, they're still very much based off the future. Right. So when they pass the PES milestone, 318 gets out and people, and I may go, well, PES is out. That was a big core tech milestone. I'm going to pledge more. I'm not pledging because PES is in the game. I'm pledging for the promise that PES is going to unlock all this future stuff. So some people are different. Some people look at it and they go, well, I want a good FPS game, so I'm looking at Star Citizen like that now, and I base everything on Siege of Origins current performance. I feel sorry for those people because there's much better combat
Me
games
too.
out there, much better, ridiculously better combat
Arma.
games. Oh my God, that you should
Arma.
really get into. Yes, exactly. But
Arma.
that being said, you know, it's a subjective thing. So I was curious where you guys landed on that and how you look at Star Citizen.
I have so many thoughts rolling in around in my head right now. I'm not sure where to start. I got lost in the controversy, actually.
Yeah. Well,
I was ready to break. Let's start with that, actually. Yeah, let's start with that, actually. Because when I first heard of it, I think I was ready to bust out my emergency supplies of torches and pitchforks, which I keep in a box for such occasions. I have seen a lot of good arguments for and against. And I think the longer this goes on, the less of a side I think I really have, to be honest. I'm feeling less and less. It's not that I don't care. It's just I see, like Ender, I think we talked about. It's. I think there's faults on both sides, and yes, communication from CIG could have been clear. I think everyone kind of needs to take this as a learning opportunity. Okay, this was kind of a gray area at best. We understand now. I would be very surprised if we didn't hear back from CIG saying, "Hey, we relooked at this and we want to clarify it." Either, for now, we'd like to classify this as griefing until we bring on additional gameplay mechanics to kind of smooth over interactions like this.
Yeah.
In the meantime, let's just my thought is I'm just going to give both sides the benefit of the doubt. The Pirates and the Pirates. CIG, I think, is doing their thing in the background. We'll probably won't hear anything from them until they've had a chance to discuss it. They're probably also all trying to get 318 out the door. So,
and they've actually been pretty good at that over the past year, like doing one thing, but then backtracking a little bit and reframing it, you know, when they've made a misstep.
Yeah. So I understand where everyone's coming from. I think everyone's kind of taken a side from their point of view. And like I said, I've seen lots of good arguments for and against.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give everyone the benefit of the doubt because at the end of the day, it's a game that's still being worked on.
Yeah. Heads up, everyone in chat. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We're talking about a bunch of just random stuff. Just a heads up, though, Twitch is doing well. YouTube does have a pretty harsh delay on it. Me and Ender are going to look into that over the next couple weeks, figure out what's causing that. If it's something that can't be solved, we may take further steps to deal with that, or maybe we move to one platform. So sorry about that delay on YouTube. Hopefully you can keep up with us. If the delay is really bothering you, switch over to our Twitch if you can. I know not everyone likes Twitch for various reasons. I totally get it. But, you know, again, yeah, VM, 100%. I mean, I think I fully think CIG will come out and readdress this. The other thing too, there's been so much, and this is where I think content creators do play a good role in the Star Citizen community, because I know people can be split on content creators. Some people in the Star Citizen community hate content creators, and you know, for their larger than average voice, and some people, you know, really like it. But this is a place where I think content creators can have a great role, because they're doing so much content based off of this that it sort of is something for CIG to gives them a barometer on what the discussion is in the community. And they can usually, you know, it's not related to like, why isn't this ship out yet? You know, these are things that are more community temperature sort of discussions that one of the best ways to judge that is to watch content and see what people are saying. So, you know, and of course, certain voices are louder than others. We all get that. But I think, you know, the content creators that are covering this right now, that is a good thing, because I do think CIG will loop back around to it.
I did want to cover one thing.
Yeah.
Kavotha, you said in the chat on Twitch, I would say there's some pretty clear rules on repeatedly killing people. The pirate clearly was doing that. When you want to push that line, you might end up being the example for others. I do agree with that. Again, I think that communication, I think that communication is vital, right? They should have communicated, but I want to argue a devil's advocate point here. Is a lack of communication and the inability to communicate really the precedents we want to set? Because at the end of the day, whatever workaround builds up, it's the workaround that people are going to use to no longer be pirated. I didn't see their communication. I didn't know that they were trying to talk to me. They just blew me up for no reason. At some point, that becomes no longer the excuse that we need to have. And I think setting the precedence that that excuse is the excuse is wrong. I don't think that the pirates were the only ones in the wrong with this.
No, I mean, look, if not to cut you off, Ender, you know, if you're slicing blame up, I mean, definitely both parties are to blame, but they also they were both doing exactly what the game mechanics allowed them to do. And at the end of the day, here's why this is important. If that's, well, ultimately, I guess is the right way to say it, is that there's always going to be a point, even when CIG plugs this issue. Let's say they put limited respawns on the bed for the time being, or resource management eventually comes online and we can just turn the bed power off, all that, whatever. There's always going to be this issue that pops up in this game. You're not going to be able to have this game with this many systems in play, you know, this complex and this deep of a game, and not have little loopholes that players figure out to make other people have a bad day. So communication is key. CIG having probably a better, or I guess they don't really have one. There's an in-game ticket system, right?
No.
Yeah. CIG getting an in-game ticket system. It might be a little early for that because I know they're trying to have a lot of stuff that would come up in tickets and a lot of other games go through their issue council, and I think that's because it plugs into their QA and testing, you know, apparatus. But when we get further along, especially in the beta phase, I would hope to see some sort of ticket system come online. You know, Info Runner Excuse says StarJump Grim, I can't even see you in your Discord anymore. Well, that's a damn shame. My icon changed, just in case you didn't get that. Me and Ender both have different icons. Maybe that's it. But anyways, there's always going to be these issues in the future. You know, it's going to be something where, you know, once armor's online, people are going to figure out that the salvage tool with the lowest power setting somehow cuts through armor like nothing else. You know, there's always going to be an issue that pops up that will have to be solved. So CIG is always going to be, is going to have a subset of tech debt that they're going to have to get through. That's just bugs, issues, and not even just bugs, because this technically wasn't a bug. All the game systems were working as intended. Players just found a way to use them in an unforeseen way.
And also the door was left open.
On the Carrack?
The Carrack was open.
Yeah,
and I can't see that being a mistake.
Yeah.
Because the doors close when you are doing anything.
Right.
So I see everybody is at fault here, and it needed to happen because we need these systems in place, and they need to start looking at these systems.
Yeah.
But what we don't need is
and again,
the worst possible precedents being set. And that is essentially saying that no one is wrong here, which is untrue.
Again, I think it goes back to the most powerful tool we have in the game right now for solving this, and that's communication.
Yeah. And to be fair, we need one thing I would love to see in Star Citizen are ways to broadcast encrypted messages to people on ships that you scan. Let's say you scan a ship, and I want to be able to broadcast encrypted messages, and I say that specifically because it would be cool for it to broadcast in a region, like maybe a 10,000 kilometer region, but not be over general chat or like a DM to someone or anything, but like a limited encrypted broadcast for the area where you can state intentions. I think that would be really cool for Star Citizen eventually. If you're a pirate org, you can state your intentions on a ship you're coming up to. You can say, hey, we've scanned you. You only get 3 people aboard that ship. We're rolling 50 deep here. Let's talk, or we're going to destroy you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can open up those lanes of dialogue, that type of stuff. I think that could be really great. You know, I've said this many times. I know Ender's heard me say this many times. I'm not an anti-combat person. I played Arma 3 for 10 years. I'm definitely not anti-combat, but I want combat to have a purpose. And all this stuff that we're talking about actually makes, when combat has a purpose and has a place, and there are ways to sort of feign death out of that or get out of those situations, combat becomes its own emergent gameplay loop beyond just killing people. It will no longer be tagged with the word troll or griefing or that type of stuff. Combat will truly come into its own, and I think will be one of the most interesting kind of gameplay loops once a lot of that stuff comes online. So we talked a little bit about all that, and again, all that goes back to my original question. And VM, I'll ask you this: how do you judge the game? Do you judge it for what it is now, or what it's going to be in the future?
I am very much forward-looking futurist when it comes to this game. In fact, probably even more so, because most of my hype is not even gameplay feature. It's I love the concept art, and I love a lot of the early on development stuff has me probably more hype than anything else.
Yeah.
Stuff that, I'm going to be honest, Star System could come out into 1.0. There's going to be stuff that probably will never make it for various reasons. So, and just, set your expectations, but I am still sold on the idea, very much so.
Yeah.
Probably more than anything else.
And
the game is the game.
Yeah. Ender, what about you? How do you view it? I know we've had talks a lot about this, but as someone who streams the game pretty regularly, I know you had a little bit of a kind of a break from it for a bit there, but you kind of come back into it. As someone who likes to play, do bounties and kind of be actively doing your stuff, how do you judge the game? Is it leaning one way or the other, or do you kind of view it in both kind of timetables? What's your opinion on that?
I play the game as it is now, but I do so with the knowledge that it is going so much further.
Yeah.
I can only judge this game on what I've been told.
Right.
From the devs of what's going to happen. Now, one of the Ginger Bomb said, well, new players are only going to judge it on the current system. You're right. New players absolutely will. And there's going to be 2 levels of new players.
Especially now as there's more stuff in the game. And, the earlier players were so little, they had to judge it off the futures. So
I think that there's going to be 2 types of new players. One, that type of new player who comes in, judges it immediately, and drops the game. We're done. I don't want to play this anymore. Shit. And then there's the other who comes in and goes, what is this? Something's off. And they start reaching out to community members. They jump into streams. They ask questions. And at that point, it is on us to direct them and to foster them, remembering that this is an alpha state game and there is so much more to come.
Yeah.
But it is on us, because our words are what are going to determine how people judge this game.
Yeah.
If Grim had contacted me about this game and said, dude, I want you to try this game out, it is such trash right now. It's garbage. I would have been like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Thanks. But Grim didn't do that. He said, look, this is the state of the game right now. Isn't great, but it is everything we are looking for in a game in the future.
Yeah.
And I went into it with those eyes. I looked into the game and I got to join the game. And ever since then, I have kept those eyes, because it's on me. I'm a voice of the community, right? Even if I didn't stream, my voice is one that is in the community. The name that attaches to ours alone is a voice in the community. So if I were to talk poorly, people would start to view this game poorly. People would drop the game. New players would never get into the game. Bam Bam said, so don't listen to the powerful streamers. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm reaching this conversation. What I'm saying isn't for the new players. It's for us, the community, to harbor the goodwill.
And I will say to just Bam Bam's comment there, in some ways, don't listen to anyone. You're really gonna have to judge it for yourself, because there's, it really becomes a thing of, where do you weigh your kind of your outlook? Do you weigh it on the short term, which could mean what the game is now and maybe the next patch or two, or do you weigh it for the long term? Me personally, I'm weighing it for like 4 years out right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? The stuff I'm interested will not see the light of day till that. By the way, real quick, thank you for that follow, Info Runners, and thank you everyone else for the follows and all that good stuff. Really appreciate it. Don't forget, by following or subscribing on either Twitch or YouTube, you're automatically entered into the Star Jump Fleet Viewer poster giveaway. We're going to do 10 giveaways next episode. We'll draw those names out. All you have to do is follow or subscribe. We're going to randomly draw names from the last 60 days of active people. So all of you in chat right now are automatically entered, essentially, if you follow or subscribe. So that's all you got to do. Anyway, I look 4 years out. I mean, a lot of the stuff I want is nowhere near in game, but this is not new to me. When I first started playing Arma 3, Arma 3 was the first early access game on Steam. A lot of people don't know that. Arma 3 was the very first early access game. It tested the early access platform for Steam. And when I first played Arma 3 as early access, it was garbage. It was hot, wet garbage. It did not work. Nothing was in game. Ender knows I love flying helicopters and stuff. None of that was in. There wasn't even helicopters. You couldn't mod the game. The graphics were terrible. But I knew from day one of early access, I said, I know the lineage of Arma games, and I know where this will be in 5 years. And it wasn't even about wanting to pick it up in 5 years. When it got to that point, I knew I wanted to come in early and grow with it. That way I was intimately involved with that growth. And that's the same approach I'm taking with Star Citizen. Your mileage may vary. You may take a much different approach. VM, sorry I interrupted you.
No, I was going to just circle back on what Ender was talking about, and because it made me think, for as much drama sometimes as there is within the Star Citizen community, one thing I think I always appreciate is the fact that overall Star Citizen has a reputation for having a very welcoming and overall positive community.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of games don't. A lot of games don't, especially for those new players. If you've ever had, I love watching YouTube, streamer play Star Citizen for the first time. They're lost. They're looking up things on the internet. They're trying to get help from their chat. Inevitably, they run into someone who becomes their new best friend because they help them out of a pinch.
Yeah.
That overall is the community. And there's going to be drama from time to time. There always is. Enjoy our drama. But I think we really just need to give credit to everyone.
Yeah.
Streamers and players alike.
Here's what I'll say about that. I know Mud Dog just popped in there and put a comment in chat, and I think this is the great thing about to anyone who's just kind of getting into Star Citizen. You're looking at all the different content creators. There's a lot of them out there, a lot of good ones. The great thing though is they do have all different kind of prisms that they look through the game on. Some are a bit negative, some are overly positive, some are down the middle. Some do more live streaming stuff, some do ship analyzations, some do roundtable talks, whatever. The good thing is there's a good there's a good amount of different types of content creators in Star Citizen that you should be able to find at least one or two that you dig and that you like. I know for me personally, I have about 3 that I watch regularly. I watch all different kinds. I'm constantly absorbing content out there to see what the conversation is. Some I agree with, some I don't. I watch content creators I don't agree with, actually, a lot of times too. But the main thing is there's 3 content creators that I kind of watch regularly. I have their stuff subscribed. I watch pretty regularly. I know Execute from InfoRunners is in the chat. InfoRunners is one of those I watch really regularly because, again, they do unique content, and that's what I like to see. I really enjoy Ray's guide because he does breakdowns of topics, but then gives his own solutions to them, and they're extremely well thought out. You can find those. Just dig around the community, and you will find stuff you're into. Let's go ahead and switch gears real quick. I want to get into the next big piece of Star Citizen controversy for the week because God knows we can't have a week go by in Star Citizen without a massive amount of controversy. The latest one, I think Execute in chat was referring to this one earlier, but the latest one, I want to see what you guys' thoughts were, if you had any thoughts or if you'd watched it, was last week's Inside Star Citizen, which was called Server Meshing Summit. Or I believe that's what it was called. Did either one of you watch that?
I did not.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and give a brief...
I need to.
Okay.
I have a personal policy.
Yeah.
I don't attend meetings I'm not invited to. I don't even attend some meetings I am invited to.
Yeah. Well,
so I turned on, I'm like, this looks interesting if I was directly involved, but I don't have time and I'm not on the required attendee list for this.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So if you could just give me the executive summaries in an email, that's me. Does this need to be an email? Does this need to be a meeting, or can I just get the bullet points in an email?
Well,
thanks, Jared.
It's a good point. And I'm gonna give you both of you a brief primer on what was discussed or lack thereof.
This could have been an email, Grim.
Yeah, it could have been an email. Possibly the CIG's thinking the same thing. So Disco Lando, Jared decided to do something a little bit different and do kind of a post interview with the team involved in the summit meeting, which always happens in January, February-ish time period at CIG, where multiple teams come together that are involved in big pieces of tech or big pieces of game development. Those teams will meet. It's called a summit. They kind of get their ducks in a row for the year. It was made quite clear that this is not when work on a particular thing starts. It's just that they're meeting to kind of get their ducks in a row for that year and the task at hand, make sure they're on the same page. So I think that all sounds good. Everything sounds interesting, right? The issue was that this part 1 episode, and I will say it was a part 1, alluding to the fact that there'll be a part 2, was really just 20 minutes of people who were in a really interesting meeting telling us that they had just gotten out of a really interesting meeting with almost no details, no plans. They didn't talk about server meshing at all, really. They just kind of talked about how important it was that they got together and had a meeting about server meshing. But I am overly simplifying it. There was some, if you read between the lines, paid attention, watch it second or third time, you actually will find info that is important in this. And again, there will be a part 2, which I'm assuming will have a lot more meat and potatoes. Obviously, most of the Star Citizen community was quite irritated by the fact that this server meshing ISC had almost no information. And a lot of people really felt it should have been a, more of a Star Citizen Live type thing instead of Inside Star Citizen. Here's the important thing to point out, though. They did mention a couple of important things, and I do encourage people to watch it if you haven't watched it. One of the important things was that they said that they really alluded to the fact that server meshing development was officially starting. That caused a big uproar in the community. People were like, "What the hell? I thought you're just now thinking about this." So and Xylo came out and said, "No. Server meshing has been in the works for quite a while now." But what I think the server meshing teams were saying there is that now, while they have been working on server meshing, they've also been working on PES and many other things. Now we've reached the stage where server meshing is priority 1. Where before server meshing was priority 2 and PES was priority 1 because PES needed to come first. Now server meshing is priority 1, and you get from the meeting that it's all hands on deck now for server meshing. It is the goal now. The other important thing they talked about was that it sounds they really have divided the server meshing task into sort of 2 goals that they need to accomplish. And originally those goals were tied together. Now they're kind of looking at them separately. And those goals are to bring in Pyro and get us to another solar system. And the other goal was server meshing, getting much better performance for the game, possibly upping the player count, all the good stuff that comes with server meshing.
Yeah.
Now it sounds like that, from what I was gathering, it sounded like Pyro and the jump gate to Pyro might be its own release or part of a tier 0 static server meshing release. And then following that up will be a bigger server meshing release. That's sort of what I got from it. And over on Super Mac Brothers videos, Ryan over there, who's a big StarJump supporter, shout out if he sees this. He kind of said, he kind of framed it like this, which I thought was rather interesting. He said that he thinks what they're doing is kind of putting it out there that the 4.0 patch is probably going to be pulled back a little bit in its feature set. Like all the stuff we were supposed to get for 4.0 might be pulled back a little bit. And what 4.0 will specifically be is Pyro. So we'll get to go to Pyro, but that a lot of the server meshing features won't come on board till a little bit after that. Maybe it's in a point patch or, something like that. So what he was saying is that while we might get Pyro and some static server meshing tech, we may not see a lot of the performance uplift that we were supposed to see from the server meshing tech really come online yet. What we might get first is just Pyro. You can have 100 people on a Stanton server. You can have 100 people on a Pyro server, and there's a transition between the two. I know you two didn't watch the server meshing ISC, but what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's ultimately a good idea for them to focus on getting Pyro out first, which is what they're planning to do, versus just trying to get static server meshing done, and then Pyro will just come along with that whenever they get done? What's your thoughts?
If I can back up for just a moment, the video, as you're describing it, you mentioned something with getting the enthusiasm of the meeting attendees. We'll go with that. I think they've mentioned on ISC before that these videos are just as much for their own internal use as they are for us.
Yeah.
And I think server meshing isn't important enough as a milestone that they wanted to record it. They wanted to do something to memorialize it, is the impression I got, and to get everyone else within CIG hype for this. It seems like that's kind of the vibe I'm getting just from what little I saw of it before I turned it off. But what you're describing probably is a lot more interesting for those within CIG. And I think I have to give credit to that team, to Jared's creative team, for going out and doing a production like this. That, it's kind of outside of their normal wheelhouse of what they produce. That's more flashy and visible for the community as a whole. But this, I think, is going to be an important stepping stone in their entire game release. They've got PES, server meshing is that big tech. And then they start rolling out the content. So, that was just my initial hot take.
I agree with that. I mean, Ender's heard me say before that I think they need to kind of do something new and different with ISC and Star Citizen Live, because it's felt a bit. Sometimes there's great episodes, stale, and I will hand it to Jared. I think he was trying something different. I think the goal was to make us feel a little bit like we were flies on the wall, but the problem is it wasn't as successful as an experiment, and I think they realized that because Jared kind of mentioned that on Star Citizen Live, that he goes, "Look, I'm experimenting. It's not always going to be a success." So I will hand it to Jared that, and I agree with you, Execute. It was not a great ISC in my opinion. It really felt let down, but I do hand it to him that they were trying something a little different. I do think next time though they need to frame it differently. They need to say, "Hey, this begins the series on server meshing. It's going to be a multi-part series. Not going to be a lot of new information here in part one, but as we get further down this series, you'll learn more and more." My big concern from this Inside Star Citizen and hearing how they're kind of splitting that, and I saw that Starlit and Ostentatious One are getting a little bit more technical than I can on the server meshing tech side, so I appreciate it. Ostentatious says the jump gates, for example, require relinquishing all ties on the DGS, the dedicated game server, and transfers it to another dedicated game server in real time. So again, I don't totally know what steps they're taking. They just seem to really indicate that Pyro and maybe the jump gate to Pyro, but definitely Pyro, the goal is to get that out as soon as possible. They actually use that word, as soon as possible. And I don't know, that kind of gave me the impression that they know that static server meshing in the form that we want to see it in is not going to be done by end of year this year. And I'm speculating here, and because everyone's sort of got it in their head that we're going to have Pyro by the end of the year, whether CIG stated that or not, I think they kind of have a little bit of pressure right now where they're feeling like we've got to get Pyro out. So whatever we have to do to get Pyro out, that'll be step one. And then we're going to circle around and get any other server meshing shit that we didn't get in. What do you guys think?
I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
I think what we're looking at is, and I know you don't understand everything that Ostentatious said there, but he's right. You need a handshake between servers.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to start that is through the gate, the jump gate, where you relinquish everything. You basically, as I can explain it as an air traffic controller.
Mm-hmm.
We do handoffs, right? So when a aircraft is coming to me as the air traffic controller, my ground controller hands it off to me. And they say, "Hey, you're going to contact control via 1221 or whatever our freaks are." And then they're going to pop over and say, "Hey, handing off blah, 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 blah to you." Mm-hmm. So that's a simplification of what a server handshake would be, right? Yep. So essentially it's leaving the server for you to travel through that gate. While you're traveling that gate, it's literally going, "Hey, we're giving StarJump Grim off to you, a different server. And it's going to be one fluid motion for us, but for them, it's a whole bunch of other items that are going in it." It's going, "Yeah, we're receiving it. We understand, blah, blah, blah." So they need that, right? To bring server meshing in without Pyro, it would be like bringing everything they've brought in the game so far without Pyro.
Yeah.
Everything changes when Pyro comes out, right? It would be like throwing NPCs into the game now as, "Hey, I can hire an NPC to help me load this cargo." And then bringing Pyro on, they're going to have to change that in a big way. So rather than change it in a big way, they're going to go ahead and get a new server, a new situation a new system.
Yeah.
And then start working even heavier on those shards or whatever this looks like in the end, and that's how we're going to end up with our server mesh.
So technically, for the release of Pyro, then all we really need is a handoff from Stanton to the jump tunnel, whatever they're going to call that. I saw in the actual ISC episode, they did show a whiteboard, and they actually showed that area as being called inner space. So essentially a handoff from Stanton to inner space, and then a handoff from inner space to Pyro. Right?
Yes.
And then once you're on Pyro, you could just be in a standard server again, right? Without a lot of the server meshing tech.
Correct.
Involved. Okay. I mean,
Correct.
I know Starlet, and Starlet, salute to you. I hope you're well, dear. Starlet here in chat said that, talking about Pyro being finished or not finished. The funny thing is Pyro, it depends on how you think of it. If you think of it in terms of Stanton and how Stanton was developed, Pyro is probably very finished because it looks like they have all their planets, have all their moons. They've got a big space station outpost they're working on. So Pyro is most likely going to feel a lot more done than what Stanton did, because Stanton just dribbled out slowly, one moon at a time practically. So I guess it kind of determines on how you look at Pyro. I personally hope, this is my hope, that Pyro doesn't just launch with all those things I just listed, but I also hope it launches with quite a few missions in place.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm hoping. And I may be reading into this a little bit too, but I think Pyro's gotten pretty damn far along in terms of the art and all that, placement of assets, all that stuff. I think now they've got all this time remaining, so they're putting more effort into, the space stations and Pyro and stuff like that. But I'm hoping the mission team, and according to the progress tracker, this is true, but, I'm hoping the mission team is taking this time before server meshing comes online to get as many missions into Pyro as possible. Because talk about a good bit of press to launch a new star system full of missions. Go ahead, VM.
Speaking of art assets, I don't know if anyone saw the tweet from our friend Pedro last week, basically saying Camacho, basically saying that all the music for Pyro was done, ready to go, and he can't wait for everyone to hear it. Yeah. That's got me super hyped. So I would imagine, I don't know where music falls. That's a completely independent thing, but that kind of to me says a lot of the other art assets, everything's ready to go, and they're just putting the final touches on it.
Yeah.
I hope.
And look, Starlet is not exactly wrong either. They've showed a lot of great in-game stuff for Pyro. They've also showed us a shit ton of concept art for stuff that didn't look anywhere near started. So it's hard to judge sometimes where something is. I mean, one of the things that we've heard a lot about recently are these big underground facilities, right? And they've really only showed concept art for that. They have shown a couple in-game kind of white boxy renders, but we don't know where those are at. They almost made it seem like those are going to be throughout Pyro and Stanton pretty soonish, but who knows? But I mean, I personally am okay with this idea of getting Pyro out. I do think this whole splitting the tasks into two goals, though, is because I think there's some, I don't know if I want to call it a marketing plan, but I think there's some sort of plan in place that they were originally on track for. Some sort of timed release, like maybe internally they knew Pyro was coming at a certain quarter, but I think they got off of that a little bit, which is okay. That happens in development. They got off of that a little bit, whether PES took too long or whatever the deal is. And because they've gotten off of it, they've looked ahead and they said, you know what? We're not really going to be able to get back onto schedule because we've had stuff piled down into funnel. So but because certain things are lining up how they're lining up, we need to get Pyro out the door around XYZ time, because otherwise we're going to run into further issues, right? I mean, again, I'm speculating, but that's personally what I see happening. Otherwise, because it seems awfully strange that CIG is suddenly, CIG, the king of delays, is suddenly saying, you know what? This thing we've been telling you for 3 years now that is tied to server meshing, Pyro to server meshing, we're now going to sort of split that a little bit. You know what I mean? Because we really want to get Pyro out. I'm sure they're excited about Pyro, and I think Pyro is going to bring a ton of good press to the game, because suddenly people streaming the game, Kotaku articles, they're not going to be able to write their article starting off with the game with only one system, because they always make that comment. That's no longer going to be true. Star Citizen's going to literally expand, and so it's going to be a big plus for the game in many different avenues. Obviously, funds will be a big one. I guarantee you when Pyro comes online, you're going to see an influx of cash. You just are. Because again, it's like I said before, it's one of those milestones that they're crossing and people get excited. So Execute says 5 years of Pyro, it's going to be at the same level as Stanton. Yeah, I hope it's at the same level of Stanton now, the Stanton we have now. But even Stanton's not technically finished. We don't have the Aaron Halo gates and all, there's lots of stuff we don't have. But yeah, so it was an interesting ISC. It does make me wonder how quickly they're going to follow up with part 2. There is supposed to be a part 2, possibly a part 3. They kind of originally said that it was in a few weeks they'll get part 2 out. I think that we might see them bump that up a little bit. We'll see. But yeah, how do you guys feel about the speed of server meshing development? If you look at the progress tracker, it's actually been on the progress tracker in terms of active work, because teams have been working on it. You know what I mean? Different teams have been tying into certain server meshing tech, I think, that was already built. So when do you feel server meshing really needs to come online before things start getting concerning? Ender, you might be muted.
Check 1.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Sorry about that. When it's ready.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those things
Soon.
that it's
soon.
I think this is one of those things that it's vitally important for them to feel ready to bring this online.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that they shouldn't rush, because the release of tier 0, because everything is released in tiers of items, and I don't think that server meshing is going to come online complete, right? Yeah. But the release of tier 0 will dictate how a lot of people feel about everything.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the things that they need to just ignore the community for. And do what they feel is right. I think this is one of those things that if we rush it, if we as the community rush it, we're dictating how bad it is. And we've seen in the past how bad things can be when we as the community rush them.
Yeah. Do you guys think that because of this, brand new news that we've gotten in this last ISC, and hopefully they expand on it, do you think part of the reason they may be switching or, separating the tasks of server meshing as a whole and Pyro, not totally separating them, by the way, but kind of looking at them as 2 goals, with the first goal being to get Pyro out the door? And we don't totally know what that means because they didn't really frame it beyond that, but they seem to indicate Pyro was the priority. Do you think they're doing that because they already have plans in place for this year's CitizenCon to do a big Pyro reveal and sort of say, hey, you're going to be flying in Pyro in Q2 of next year or whatever it is? Because they've done that in the past. There's, I think it was right before 3.8 came out. There was an IE or CitizenCon. I remember it because
3.9.
Yeah. Well, right before 3.8, though, right before I pledged or started playing the game, they did a CitizenCon and they showed off the Carrack and they said, hey, you'll be flying the Carrack in February of next year, and they kind of revealed it. Do you think the reason they're trying to push Pyro in this way is and get it out the door as quickly as possible is because they have kind of already formulated CitizenCon plans around a Pyro reveal?
Could be. I mean, it makes sense. Let's see, CitCon this last year, or was that IE? They mentioned how that was IE.
Yeah.
How no, that was CitCon, right?
Was
most recent one. Yeah. October.
October was
when they
CitizenCon.
revealed the. When did they reveal the
Galaxy?
Jesus. Yeah. Was that at CitCon?
I can't remember. Anyone in chat can tell us? Was the Galaxy a CitCon reveal or an IE reveal? I can't remember.
The 2 come close together, right? It's like CitCon.
Yeah, they're real close.
October, then it was IE.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
About right.
Yeah. Ferk 8.
Ferk 8.
I love your name, Ferk 8. I think that they're going to do the same thing here, but I'm almost of the mindset that they've decided that Pyro was coming out at IE. You've been talking a lot about, and you threw out all of IE, Grim 100% with zero failure, called every Jax video and how it was going to go and how the story was going to go.
I had that whole story figured out before IE.
Before IE. Yeah. He was like, look, this is what's going to happen. And I was like, nah, maybe. And then he hit it on the head, and I was like, oh, Jesus.
But you bring up a good point with these Jax videos, because going all the way back to not last year's IE, but the year before that, when Jax went off in the Odyssey to Pyro, they've been seeding this Pyro thing. Yeah, they want it on deck. And because, again, they know. And here's the thing, because it's going to be pull in a lot of funds, because it's a big deal, and it is a big deal because it's our first new system in the game. And they know it's a big deal because they keep dropping it every chance they can. They talk about the journey to 4.0. There is no way in hell that they do not have some marketing stuff planned for Pyro.
Yeah.
It would not shock me if they don't have even some more public facing marketing stuff for Pyro lined up. Whereas normally the marketing is more like patch watches and like stuff for like current citizens, current Star Citizen players. I wouldn't be surprised if with Pyro, we see the first bit of kind of real external marketing saying, hey, come play Star Citizen and explore Pyro, you know what I mean? Whatever. I don't know. I think that they've gotten themselves into a place where they know they have to deliver it, and they have to deliver it soon. So
I think that it's going to deliver with IE. I think it's going to be one of those situations where they're like teasing it, coming real soon, guys. It's coming soon. It's coming soon. And then at IE, they're going to go, why aren't you guys in Pyro? Like it's gonna be a Jax video where he comes back, and then he's gonna say something, and then CIG's literally gonna go, "Come on, guys."
Yeah.
And it will be a clusterfuck.
Yeah,
just gonna point that out.
And
for a little while,
as is tradition.
As is tradition.
And we have several people in chat: Starlet, Ostentatious, some others I may have missed, but talking about server meshing, Jack O'Neill, and some of them have better understanding of this type of technology, especially over what I understand about it. But CIG, I think the best thing they can do this year, going forward, is to start getting very I know they're trying to build Pyro up and probably have a big announcement at CitizenCon or whatever the case may be, but I do think for their own sake they probably need to start including us this year a little bit closer in the communication of how the Pyro release roadmap is coming along, like our path down to that, and how server meshing is going. Only because whether through the hints they've been dropping in their the IE videos of Jax or other things they do, the player base feels like Pyro's coming into this year. That seems to be the general consensus. Now, much more pragmatic Star Citizen players, like our lovely Starlet in chat, are saying, no, it's coming next year, maybe, and which is good as well. You need to have all those viewpoints. But I really think CIG needs to get ahead of any potential, ball droppage here and start including us in this conversation, because if they're a little bit more open about that, especially if they hit roadblocks along the way, then we'll start to temper our expectations. Now, another important thing they said in the ISC, though, is they seem to make it very, very clear that specifically with static server meshing, I'm not referring to dynamic server meshing. They very much indicated dynamic server meshing is a future thing, and they're dealing with static server meshing. But exactly, Stuicus. But they made it a point to say several times that they understand how to make static server meshing work, and they're going to get it done. They said that any potential tech problems that pop up, it's kind of funny because they use these sort of exact words. They said, we know how to build around them. So, and I think what that indicates is I think they have done enough testing internally, and they have enough stuff mapped out now that they know how they're building the architecture, the code, all that stuff. That stuff's already been kind of figured out. Now they're just executing on it. And yes, they may hit some roadblocks, but they've already got ways around some of that stuff. So that was reassuring to hear, and I thought that was it was good that they included that into this part one. Even though it didn't have a lot of information, the little bit of information we did get was A, we're trying to get Pyro to you sooner rather than later, and B, we know how to do this. Like, they actually use those words. We know how to do this. We know how to make this static server meshing a reality. Which for part one is not bad. I do hope part two, they start to really pull back the meat and potatoes, because I personally would love if Jared did more content centered around these summit meetings at the beginning of the year. I would love to, for example, hear, what John Crew and the ship teams, ship summit was all about. Maybe they can't reveal every ship that's coming along, but it'd be a cool place to maybe reveal one or two known ships that they put into the pipeline and why they put them in the pipeline. That would be really interesting. You know what I mean? Like, for example, let's just say they go, oh, we're adding the Vulcan into the pipeline. And here's why. Because while we don't expect repair or drone gameplay to come on in the near term, we want to start looking at, just hearing some more about that, I think could be really interesting. So I would love for Jared to continue to do the summit stuff. He just may need to frame it a little differently. So,
yeah.
Anything anyone else wanted to bring up? Any other thoughts, Star Citizen thoughts?
No.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to word this. Hold on. Sorry. Grim, you mentioned a conversation in the community, the Star Citizen community.
Yeah.
And I did want to mention something. I want to be as vague as possible. So forgive me. I'm just trying to think about how to be vague. I'm a very blunt person. I know that we all are exceedingly passionate about this project, right? And in various ways, and we're excited about various items in it. I think it's important for us to remember that psyching ourselves up for failure isn't the way to go. There was a conversation in the community throughout the week, and a part of that conversation was, I'm excited about this specific item, and I know it can work, but I would rather hate it and it be good than be excited and be let down. But as I've mentioned already tonight, our words, individuals' words, affect all players in various ways. And to, with no information, hate anything is a bad look. I think it's important for us as a community to remember that while I know it's extremely difficult to always be positive, we should bite our tongue a little on the not positive things. I'm not saying don't talk trash about things that come up. Look, Grim even said it tonight. They are the, would you say, delay kings?
Yeah,
I think that's how you worded it. I mean, and none at all. None at all. I'm not saying don't speak poorly of the game in general, of the developers, of anything. I'm saying that we can't assume the worst in what's being built. Because when we do, and we trash talk and we get angry, we affect that new player who could come in and hear that and be like, wow.
Yeah, I mean,
shit, I don't want to be here.
Critique is good, but you want to frame it the right way, and you want to make sure what you're critiquing is obviously accurate. There's a lot of inaccurate information out there too. And also, we had some discussions, some fun, tense discussions in our Discord this past week where, people, even kind of said, well, I both am excited for this thing, but think it's going to be bad. And it's tricky to think like that because you're A, excited for something that hasn't come out yet, and isn't even close to coming out, and B, already disappointed. So you have to be careful with doing that. And ultimately, I say this a lot, we only have what CIG tells us to go off of. Okay. And their patterns, their milestones. That's all we have to go off of.
True.
So for example, one of the conversations we had in the Discord this week was about the Pioneer and base building in Rastar and how that's going to work. And we had one of our community members say, I don't think it's going to be fun gameplay. And when I hear that, I'm always like, oh, well, that might not be for you. I mean, it's completely subjective. First off, it might not be for you. And you don't need to fly a Pioneer. There's so many other stuff to do. On the flip side to that, there's going to be a lot of people that think salvage is the most boring gameplay loop in the world. And there's going to be people that love it, right? We just had a raid from Soul Citizens with 56 viewers. Thank you, Soul Citizens. Salute to you.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome, Soul Citizens community. Hope you're all well. Jade Star Watcher and the rest. I will actually be on Soul Citizens next Sunday for their modularity show. I'll be on there talking all kinds of stuff. I think we'll discuss the galaxy and a few other things. And then I'll be on sometime in March for a Kraken episode because obviously I love the Drake Kraken. So thank you, everybody from Soul Citizens hanging out with us. We're just kind of, what's that, Ender?
I was just going to say, I'll make sure to leave you the talking points that I have for that particular episode for sure.
Sounds good. But thank you all for hanging out with us, stopping by. We just got done tonight talking about all kinds of fun stuff related to Star Citizen over the past 2 weeks, both the good and the bad. Hope you all over there at Soul Citizen are doing well. Griff, Fast Cart, Pops, everybody. It's too many fist to face. All y'all, can't mention all of y'all, but I hope you're doing well. And thanks for stopping by, hanging out. But, we were talking in our Discord with someone this week, and they were talking about the base building thing. And my thing with base building is, and I'm just going to diverge for a minute a little bit, and I'm using base building Pioneer gameplay. I'm using that really as an overall metaphor for a lot of Star System features. All we have to go on is what CIG has shown us. Some of that information is very old, right? But some of it is pretty damn new. And that's one of the biggest problems, I think, with Star Citizen is that information is in so many different places that it's hard for people to get a clear picture of where something sits and know if it's been forgotten about or if it's still active. So, for example, a lot of people think the Pioneer and base building hasn't been talked about in years when it's actually been talked about very recently, and CIG keeps bringing it up. You just have to, again, know where to look, right? So with base building, the stuff you need to be focused on is anytime CIG talks about Rastar, which is their tool for base building that they've created. They've they've dropped many statements stating that Rastar is what will power Pioneer gameplay. And so, for example, when I originally pledged for Pioneer, I thought it would be cool that you fly this ship down, you land on the surface, you go up to the deck, you go to the architecture station, because the ship's got a little architecture building station, and then you start moving your models around, you build a base. And that was exciting to me. I thought that would be cool. But then, a year later, they show off Rastar, and Rastar takes you into a third, like a overhead RTS view, like SimCity or something. And they specifically said that that's how the view for Rastar will look, and that's how the control station for the Pioneer will work. And I went, oh hell, that's off. That's even better. Now I'm even more excited because now I can build bases in RTS mode, right? So things do change. I don't think CIG, when they originally did the Pioneer panel, which you should all go watch from 2947. It's an amazing panel. But when they did that panel, they didn't have any idea, I don't think, about how Rastar was going to work and function, and it was going to be RTS style and all that. But it's evolved into that. And in my opinion, it's evolved into something better. Is that going to appeal to everyone? No. But there's going to be ways for everyone to plug into that. For example, and this goes into our kind of like last talking point of the night, which is what gameplay loops does Star Citizen need to get on board before it starts to become that dream game we've all thought about? And I always go back to, it needs gameplay loops that are all connected to each other, right? Right now, gameplay loops are kind of isolated, right? You mine, you take your material back, you refine it and sell it. Or salvage, you salvage shit, you grab your RMC, you go sell it. It's all very linear. We need all those to start plugging into each other. So for example, when the Pioneer comes online, again, I'm going to use it as an example just because I just recently, watched all about this. They specifically say on the Pioneer panel that the Pioneer is going to be a pain in the ass ship to move around. It's big. It doesn't move very fast. It eats up a lot of fuel. It's a giant flying brick. So what are you going to do first? Well, the first thing you're going to do is send out exploration ships, right? You're going to go out in your exploration ship. You're going to scan plots of land on the planets to find their mineral content, atmospherics, all that stuff. When you find a piece of land that you think is valuable enough, well, now your gameplay loop splits. You can data run that information either back to a marketplace and sell the information on that plot of land on the open marketplace, which was mentioned, to another player. Okay, that's now a career path. Or you can take that scanning data you did, decide that's going to be the piece of land you want, and you go down and set down your land claim beacon, right? Let's say you're about to build your homestead there. Well, you may or may not own a Pioneer, but regardless of whether you own one or not, I guarantee you're going to still need to get cargo brought in because the Pioneer only holds about 600 SCU. You're going to have to bring cargo in to meet up with that Pioneer, start feeding it stuff. So you see how all these gameplay loops start connecting to one another. Right now we have mining ships. Well, when the Expanse comes on board and we can have people who just want to refine meet up with those, you're going to start seeing that like magic happen. And so for me, that is ultimately when Star Citizen moves to a different level and becomes something new. It is when it's not when server meshing comes on board or being able to have 1,000 players in a server. That to me actually is whatever. I don't really give a damn where they end up with how many players on a server. What I want to see is all the gameplay loops that are in game connect to each other and affect one another, right? We do know that quantum, if that ever happens, is supposed to have a big part to play in that, as well as the 9-to-1 ratio NPC population. They're supposed to play into that. But that's going to be when the magic happens for me, whether it's 200 people on a server or 2,000. That's going to be when this becomes the Star Citizen that I pledged for. What are your guys' thoughts on that? When does the game become the dream game you are envisioning?
I just posted this in chat, but
Yep.
I just want to open up a coffee shop on a distant planet.
Yes,
That's my
absolutely.
dream. Once we get to the point where we have the technology to do it, you can all come to my grand opening.
There you go. There you go.
Dream big, people. Dream big.
I think when I can go out without a plan and the world creates the plan for me. Something happens that draws me in and pulls me. You know what I mean? That's when I feel like I'm getting closer to what I want. And also when I can just RP. Tell a story. VMX Chinos, I think is what it should be.
I like that. Well, and and to speak on your point, Ender, because I'm the same way. Obviously, I'm a big lover of RP, but I think once more gameplay loops are interacting with one another, once there are player homesteads and stuff like that, you're now creating opportunity for RP. That's the problem with a lot of these linear gameplay loops. And even combat I would put as a linear gameplay loop because even though you are interacting with someone, you're shooting them or running from them. You're not dialoguing, you're not interfacing, you're not wheeling and dealing. You know what I mean? When the gameplay loops, though, start to take on those things, that's going to get really interesting, right? And
Yes.
there is some opportunity for that now. It's just very rare. And part of it is because of the system we're in. I'll give you another example.
Yeah.
Let's say combat pilots out in Pyro, right? Where I think Pyro's 12 SCU. You know what? Let's talk about Nix when they get Nix on board. I think Nix is like 32 or 39 AU. It's huge, right? And there's not much in Nix. When Nix comes on board, if you're a combat pilot out there, okay, you're going to need two things. You're going to need a good line on a reliable refueler, and you're need a good line on a reliable repair ship, right? So again, even as a combat pilot, you have the ability to interface with people, and RP can naturally emerge from that. But so I agree with you, and I think when we have more opportunities for that, that's going to start to get really interesting, where the game starts to feel like a universe we're actually living in.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. Looking forward to not even the game elements themselves, just being able to go out into the black and be on your fully crewed Carrack and just jump into the game, and you've got your crew there and you've been on this mission.
Yeah. Well,
whatever that is.
And that's kind of funny about Stanton, isn't it? Because Stanton is a little bit because it's it's the civilized system essentially.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really feel like we're journeying into the unknown or doing anything like that. It sort of feels like we're being kept close to home. We kind of are, but it sort of feels like we're being kept close to home, right? And I think
very Star Wars.
Yeah, and I think once that opens up, and I think that's actually why Pyro is a really good first system to come online for us, because it's going to start introducing a system that is wholly different than what we've been used to, and it's going to feel not only in a literal way because we're getting a new system, but it's going to from just a perspective standpoint, it's going to feel like things are getting bigger. And when things get bigger and we're out in systems that are bigger and stuff, we're going to have to rely on each other a lot more. All that stuff's going to really come together to make the game feel magical. I mean, especially if you look at what the next 4 or 5 systems probably are. We're probably going to go from Stanton to Pyro, then we're probably going to go to Nix. After Nix, we could very easily go to Odin after that point, and then maybe Castra or Castra between Odin. All those systems connect if you look at the ArcStar map, so it would make sense that those systems would be kind of the first 5 to come online. All of them have very different types of rules and like political situations going on in them. So, yeah. All right. Anything else? Real quick, before we head off, I know we had a lot of people join us. We'll switch over here. If you are interested, we are doing a StarJump Fleet Viewer poster giveaway. Let me explain this real quick. All you have to do is follow us on Twitch or subscribe to us on YouTube. And between now and the next episode of StarJump Station, I will pull from the last 60 active days. I'll randomly select 10 winners. And on the next episode of StarJump Station, we will announce those 10 winners, and you will all get a full-size StarJump Fleet Viewer poster. These are 40 inches by 27 inches, so they're big, like poster size, standard size. All of the ships on them are to scale with the name of the ship and the scale. Really, really cool posters. And we're going to do that every single StarJump Station episode. So every single StarJump Station episode, we're going to be pulling out another 10 winners. And we're going to be doing 10 for as long as I can go. I ended up getting a pretty good deal on supplying that. So again, if you haven't already, please follow us on Twitch or subscribe to us on YouTube. Really, really appreciate it. And you're automatically entered to win one of these posters. That's all I have. We do have more StarJump content coming. We're going to be doing Skunkworks this week. We also have our new show, StarJump Shipyard, coming probably next weekend or maybe the week after. We're just editing it. And obviously Fleet Builders will continue to come down the pipes. We have tons of stuff happening. StarJump is finally starting to move for this year and get back on our content cadence release schedule. So, Ender, VM, anything else before we close it out, before we do a raid?
April, we are doing St. Jude Play Live. So please go give me a follow as well.
Yep.
I will be doing St. Jude Play Live there. And also whenever we do Fleet Builders, we'll be there. Equinox.
Yes.
I'm hoping to maybe go. I don't know.
Yeah. So
We'll
Equinox is Shadican, throw the date in there. I think it's June 3rd.
June 3rd.
If I'm not mistaken, Equinox, Columbus, Ohio. The last year's event was awesome. Me and Ender and VMXEO, all three went. It was a great time. Unfortunately, CIG put Citizen Con right during the middle of it, but it was a great time. I unfortunately will not be able to make it to this year's Equinox. I'll be traveling with family. But it was a great event. You should definitely try to go if you're not. If you're not in this area or can't make it to the Columbus Equinox event, obviously go check out the many other really cool Star Citizen, Bar Citizens, and other events that happen. There's a ton. I saw the CIG was starting back up their Bar Citizen World Tour as well. So yes, Shadican says CIG's coming this time, so it should be a fun event. Definitely go, definitely hang out, support them. They put on a great, like I said, they put on a great event. We had a fun time last time. So, cool. Anything else, boys? All right, Ender, who are we raiding tonight?
We're raiding somebody we've never raided before, but they're a veteran, and that's why we're raiding.
Okay.
00. Honestly, it's he's I don't know what he's doing. I think he might be trying to mine, but great legs on this guy. No, he's got he seems like a nice guy. I've watched him a couple of times, and I figured why not? We'll hit somebody up who is newer.
Let's spread the love. Yeah. Everyone in chat, thanks for hanging out with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Do something kind for a random stranger. I just started it, so do not end your stream just yet, brother.
Will not end it just yet.
We're about to raid in 5, 4, 3, 2. Do something kind for a random stranger, guys. See ya.
See ya. Thanks, everybody.